the first video on this channel, and I'm recording the intro as the last thing I do, which is a weird approach, but I think the best option. First and foremost, you can see that this video is about an hour and a bit long. I hope you can spare some time to watch all of this, I would really appreciate it. But I know time is precious, and I understand that you may not fully watch this. The reason why this video is so long is that I wanted to show you what this game has to offer. This isn't a review, but more like a condensed video talking about this game. I've had this video idea for about maybe 5 or 6 years now. I spent the span of 6 months, but an actual total of probably a month making this video. I blame myself on procrastinating too much and the lack of experience. This video isn't my magnum opus, it's more like that I had this idea for so long that I had to see it through to the end. I was thinking of making another video shorter than this one to at least get a video out, but I stuck through it. Hopefully this video releases on Christmas Eve because it fits the scene and is getting quite close to Christmas Eve in real life. I hope you enjoy this video. A lot of work was put into this, but I've got low expectations for this video overall. I know it ain't gonna be a hit, and honestly, I'm happy whatever happens after this, and I'm glad I got this video out this year. Alright, let's talk a bit of backstory on how I found this game. My first home console was a PlayStation 2, and with that was a copy of Crash Tag Team Racing. I remembered that we didn't have a memory card because you had to buy it separately with the PS2, so I played it briefly but numerous of times. I had prior gaming experience with the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance, but playing on the PS2 was a whole new experience. My PS2 library increased as the years went by. For example, Call of Duty 3, that game introduced me into FPSs. Kingdom Hearts 2 was an amazing game to start on despite no knowledge on the previous games. Sonic Heroes, a Sega classic, great game overall. And Shrek 2, that was a pretty fun co-op game. Now that I'm older and a lot more knowledgeable with technology, I can play any game I want if I pull the right strings. Looking for more PS2 games that I never played, I got introduced to series like Shadow Hearts, Xenosaga, Atelier, Fatal Frame, the list goes on. So many games I missed out on when I was young, and there's this one game that I stumbled across when I was looking for a horror game to play, and I would say it's one of a kind. That game is called Lifeline. Now you may be wondering to yourself, what is Lifeline? What does this game entail? Well, if you look at the tagline here, you can see it's a voice action adventure, which basically means that this game requires a microphone. In fact, you won't even get to the title screen without one. This isn't the first time that a microphone is used to control a game. There are 2 notable games which you may know before Lifeline that required a microphone. The first game is called Hey You Pikachu, which was released on the Nintendo 64. You had to play this game with 2 components, a voice recognition unit and a microphone which was connected into it. The whole premise of Hey You Pikachu is that Professor Oak gives you a device which interacts with Pokemon, mainly Pikachu. You do various activities throughout the game, and I believe there's a time-based system, so there's an incentive to play this game every day. The second game is called Seaman, and don't give me that look, that's what the game is called. Seaman was initially released on the Sega Dreamcast as well as a microphone attachment for it. The whole premise of this game is that you take care of a fish-like creature called the Seaman, and you watch it evolve over time. The game uses a time-based system, more specifically the console's clock, similarly to Hey You Pikachu, which means you could technically time travel to quickly progress through the game. Also, the Angry Video Game Nerd did a superb video on this game, so I suggest you watch it afterwards. Alright, those were 2 games that were released before Lifeline. As for Lifeline, Lifeline was released in Japan in 2003 and in America in 2004. Europe, on the other hand, it never got localized. In fact, both Hey You Pikachu and Seaman were only released in Japan or in America. I assume there were some plans of a European release for some of these games, but probably somebody did the numbers and maybe it wouldn't sell well over here, or something along those lines. Now this brings up my next point, which is that I don't own a copy of this game. I currently live in the UK, so the best option is to buy it overseas, which can be a bit pricey. As of July 2020, I haven't seen any listings of this game, but hopefully in the future I would like to own a physical copy. So, I would like to note that the following footage may have been emulated. I'll leave that to your imagination. Also, this may be a recurring theme throughout this channel. Maybe not the next video, but I'll tell you when we get there. Anyways, hit the music! With all that out of the way, I think it's time to start a new game, so let's get right into it.
New game. We will conduct a brief training session on how to use the microphone before beginning the main portion of the game.
Once we start a new game, we get introduced to the tutorial. To start things off, we learn how to use our microphone, which is done by holding the circle button, speaking into the microphone, and then releasing the circle button, just like if you were using a walkie-talkie. After we got that down, we then have to pronounce words presented on screen to test functionality. There's even a score system embedded to see how well you've enunciated.
Next one.
Lifeline.
Unbelievable!
Onto the next section of the tutorial, we get to learn some key commands that were used throughout the game. First, movement commands. As you can see on screen, there's a character model where we can see our commands in action. So, for example, if we say walk, the character model walks, as expected. We also have the ability to run and stop in place. After that's done, we learn how to examine our surroundings. We'll be examining a lot throughout the game, but it's nothing too complex. As you can see in this example, we have to examine a bottle on a table. The first thing we do is to go to the table. I mean, how else we're going to examine the bottle if we're not near it, right? Next thing to do is to look at the bottle, and it turns out the bottle is a bottle of wine. Finally, we can check the wine, and that's basically the process on examining things. Also, we can say commands like drink the wine or get the wine instead of just checking. And for better recognition, when it said look at the bottle, we could have said look at the green bottle. For the last section of the tutorial, we go into the combat system and learn some battle commands. First and foremost, every time we encounter an enemy, we get thrown into a forced battle. We fight against whatever the hell this thing is. What is that? A seaman? A slug? I guess we'll call it a slug for now. Anyways, we're equipped with the gun and the first thing we do is to shoot, which is done by saying shoot. Who would have guessed? Next we have movement commands like move left, as well as the ability to dodge. We can also combine commands together, so we can say dodge and shoot, flee and recover, and shoot, 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 to name a few. When there's 2 or more enemies, we can switch targets by saying number 1, number 2, and so on. Probably needed a bit more thought on the commands there, but it is what it is. Now the tutorial addresses the body parts that an enemy has, which is located at the bottom of the screen. We can shoot a specific body part by saying any of the available options below. In this example, we say head, shoot, and reload, which deals 2 shots to the head, followed by replenishing our ammo. After that, we learn about weak spots. For our little slug friend here, their weak spots is their stomach, so if we say stomach, we deal extra damage, resulting in a 1-hit kill. That concludes the tutorial, a bit lengthy, but it does explain the main core mechanics of the game. The opening cutscene is up next, but before that I want to briefly explain the intricacies of voice recognition. When I say voice recognition, you probably think of Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistants, right? Voice recognition can be a general term for that, but the more specific term is called speech recognition. Now, there's another term associated with voice recognition called speaker recognition, but that's usually used to identify who the speaker is, whereas speech recognition is used to identify what the speaker is saying. Nowadays, applications that have speech recognition uses AI, neural networks, deep learning, that sort of thing. For a game that was released in 2003-2004, I think the method used here is called training or enrollment, which, to put it simply, had someone say commands or lines into the game's speech recognition system. For example, if I say reload, you can see the waveform I produce here. The waveform gets converted into the speech recognition system and then gets rigged up, so when I say the word reload in game, the character reloads their weapon. That was the short and sweet explanation for this kind of speech recognition. There's still a lot more to talk about, such as improving accuracy and how speech recognition pinpoints specific letters and sounds, but I think this is a good place to stop here. Finally, without further ado, the moment you've all been waiting for, the opening cutscene. So, our story begins in the JSL Space Station Hotel. The date? Christmas Eve 2029. Our protagonist of the story wakes up in what seems to be a wrecked monitor room. Confused and injured, the only lead we've got is some surveillance footage displayed from this conveniently working computer. The footage shows a ceremony for the grand opening of the hotel. Our protagonist recalls that he was lucky enough to get invited, and because of that, he brought his girlfriend Naomi along on this special occasion.
Good evening. Would you like a cocktail? No, thank you. I don't drink.
Everything was going great. It was going to be a memorable experience for the two. But suddenly, some uninvited guests crashed into the party. Separated from his beloved, our protagonist is determined to reunite with Naomi and escape from this nightmare. How? I have no idea. No idea. I don't even know how he even got here in the first place.
This is the security room. Come in, please.
Sounds like someone's calling us. Let's check it out.
Monitor room. Can anyone hear me? Come in, please. I finally got through. Finally, my efforts pay off.
So it turns out this was the person who called us, and if you haven't guessed already, she was the waitress that interacted with our protagonist and Naomi during the ceremony.
Is the comm link still live? Operator, can you say something?
No.
Huh? Who are you? You don't sound like the regular guy.
Anyway, she asks us to unlock the door, which we comply to. She then explains that one of the security guards locked her in for some unexplained reason. Which brings up the question, why are they holding cells in a hotel? I'm pretty sure cells aren't common in hotels, but let's not forget we're in space here, so if somebody did commit a crime, I guess it's convenient to lock them up till they get sent back to Earth, right? Well, it doesn't matter anymore since the place is overrun with monsters. Eventually, after some dialogue, we arrive to some lockers where the waitress once again asks us to unlock one of them. She then pulls out a handgun. Careful where you point that thing, will ya? And then proceeds to part ways.
Thanks for your help. This should take care of any monsters. Look, I'm in a bit of a hurry. Just wait there to be rescued. If we're lucky, we'll see each other soon. Until then.
Oh, I have to talk here, get up! Despite that we're facing such a behemoth for the first battle of the game, this enemy is pretty easy to deal with. All you gotta do is shoot the first 3 eyes and 1 more for the red eye, and that's it. After the battle, the waitress thanks us once again for saving her. The first time being when we opened the cell door and the second time commanding the fight we just did. Just to clarify. She then recognizes our voice and points out that we were the young couple at the ceremony.
You were with the girl in the dark blue dress. That girl you were with, what was her name?
That's a good question. What's our girlfriend's name again? What's Naomi's name? Helen?
Helen. No, that's not it. That wasn't her name. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. She didn't want to drink. Come on, what's the name of that girl?
Angela?
Angela? No, wrong name. She was really pretty. Come on, what's the name of that girl?
Rachel?
Rachel. No, wrong name. Your girlfriend's name. It's, I think it started with an N. She was very polite. What is her name?
Starts with an N. I've got it. Nicole.
Nicole. Wrong.
So after we correctly respond with our girlfriend's name, the waitress shares her concern for Naomi and mentions that she's looking for something within the hotel before escaping. Because of this, she asks us for our cooperation in exchange for finding Naomi.
Can you help me out as an operator, like the way you did before? In return, I'll find your Naomi along the way. So it's a deal? I can count on your help?
Whoa, did you see that? That lip sync. I know this game was originally Japanese, but that was so blatant. Now, I don't know whether it was the developer, Sony Interactive Entertainment, or the publisher and translator Konami, who implemented the dubbing, but all I've got to say is that from start to end, and even in the cutscenes, the dubbing was 100% fucking atrocious. Anyways, aside from that, we do agree.
You can call me Rio. Okay, glad to meet you, operator. Are you ready?
Ready when you are.
I'm counting on you. All right, let's go save the day.
As soon as that scene ends, Rio introduces us to a special command called Consultation, where we can ask specific story-related questions like, what is JSL, for example?
JSL stands for Japan Space Lines. You and Naomi won a promotional contest to be here, didn't you?
These consultation questions update as the story progresses, so there's always something new to ask about. Now, before we get to explore, Rio ends off with this tip to keep in mind.
I intend to follow your instructions for doing most things. But if your instructions are hard to understand, I'll get confused. For instance, if you were to say, go over there, I'd be like, which way is there? So if you want me to go somewhere, I want you to say its name. For example, in this room, there are places like the lockers and the table. You know how you can display maps in the monitor room? Direct me where you want to go by the name on the map. Do you understand?
What Rio just said not only applies to locations, but pretty much everything throughout the game. From battling to exploring, it's true that we've got to be specific when we're giving out commands, but it's more of the choice of words you say that matters. As an example, let's check out the vending machines. As you can see, these vending machines have dispensers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 dispensers. There seems to be something inside the third dispenser, so we tell Rio to check the third dispenser, which most likely ends up with Rio being confused and saying, which dispenser do you mean? It makes sense that Rio would reply that because she doesn't know where the third dispenser is. Is it the third one from the right or the third one from the left? Therefore, the best way to get this item is to say, check the third dispenser from your left, or alternatively, check the second dispenser from your right.
There's something in here. What could it be? This piece of paper. Microphone check, it says.
What we just got is a keyword ticket. These tickets are scattered throughout the game, and if collected, you will get a special command. This ticket is called Microphone Check, where you can test to see whether your microphone is working or not. Also, in this room, we can get a chip, which are also scattered throughout the game. Collecting certain amount of chips will unlock some bonuses that are accessible in the main menu of the game. We're finally done with this room and ready to proceed. What trials and tribulations will we face outside? Will Naomi be safe, or is it too late? Only one way to find out is to leave the room. As we step out the security room, Rio wants us to check out some footage that she found. The footage contains a TV reporter interviewing the Prime Minister of Japan, Takayama. Rio explains that she wants to find the reporter and speak with her, as she may have information on what Rio is looking for. With that established, the next thing to do is to search the rooms in the hotel in hopes of finding the reporter and Naomi. Since the hotel's being overrun by monsters, emergency shutters have been activated across the whole hotel, restricting our exploration. These shutters require keys to open them, so the only place to explore is guest room 1. So let's check it out. After we kill some slugs along the way, of course. Entering guest room 1, there's nothing much inside, however the room adjacent has some more slugs to deal with. After finishing up that battle, we then meet the manager of the hotel, Tanaka, who emerges out of the bathroom. To sum it up, this guy's an asshole, but I'll let him tell you why.
Thanks to you, we're saved! Huh? What? You're just a damn waitress? I bet you're some greedy little gold digger looking to hook a big sugar daddy and reel him in, huh? I'll look for the Prime Minister, the jackass.
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
You got a problem with it?
I'm trying to help, and you're being a real jerk.
Save it for someone who cares, bimbo.
With that interaction out of the way, we can go into the bathroom where we can get a shutter key, and that's it for this room. Returning back to the hallway, our communication line suddenly started to get some interference as we hear someone's voice in between.
Operator! What? Wait, I'm hearing another voice. Who is this? Hello? Hello? Operator, can you hear me? There's definitely someone calling for help. There's someone else alive out there.
Anyways, let's continue on in Open Shutter 7. This guy again. Moving along, we reach upon a fork where we hear a shriek coming down the hallway, causing Rio to find the source. What the fuck is that? So Rio tries to fend off whatever this abomination is, but to no avail, which ends up with us manually closing a shutter, saving Rio in the process. Alternatively, you could be like me and didn't save Rio since we've been opening doors and lockers throughout, leaving the shutter open and inadvertently killing her. With that crisis averted, Rio says her thanks and then hears footsteps approaching towards her.
Whoa!
Gino?
Rio!
It turns out the footsteps were from this guy, Gino. He was the security guard that locked Rio in that holding cell. Surprised, Gino questions Rio on how she got out of that holding cell, to which Rio replies that we, the operator, opened it. Gino then explains that the reason he put her in the holding cell in the first place was because
inside the cell, no alien would have reached you.
I have the feeling that you didn't see that gargantuan beast we saw a few seconds ago, Gino. With that thing running around, I don't think locking Rio in that cell was a good idea. Anyways, Gino tells us that a researcher from the space station had picked up a radio signal, indicating that a rescue team is arriving soon. And, to end things off, he gives Rio one half of a voice password used for the Sun Suite where the research is located in. Gino then parts ways with Rio as he looks for survivors, while we still have to look for the reporter, Naomi, and now the researcher. At this point you probably know what we have to do, but I'll give you the condensed version on how to get to the researcher. So, we carry on exploring, we battle, we do a little puzzle in between to find the shutter key, we get another interference in our comms confirming that the person talking is Naomi, open the shutter, kill another three-eyed monster, go to the Sun Suite where we have to say the voice password that Gino gave, but we only have one half of it, so we have to go to the guest room opposite to the Sun Suite to get the second half. Inside the guest room we have to deal with some new hand-like enemies that are a pain to deal with, but dies instantly if we time our shots when their tongues are exposed, get the second half of the password, return back to the Sun Suite where Rio says the first half of the password and we do the second half, and then after that saying the whole password together, which finally opens the Sun Suite. A mouthful, but now we can enter the Sun Suite. Stepping inside the luxurious suite, the researcher is nowhere to be seen. Maybe upstairs perhaps. Upon reaching upstairs, we see the body of the researcher lying lifelessly on the ground. Well, that was a waste of time. Wait, he's alive? So this is Alan Honda, a researcher of the space station, and I didn't bring it up till now, but you're probably wondering why there's a researcher in a hotel? To which I say, this is a space station first, and a hotel second, if that clears things up. Alan here was playing dead because he thought an alien had entered the suite, which Rio asked that if he believes that those are aliens invading the hotel. This ticks Alan off since he insinuates that Rio is blaming him for creating those aliens. He denies these claims and says that he's researching hypercarbon alloy, which is the material used for the hotel structure, and gives Rio a diss referring to said research. He also tells Rio that even if they were experimental test subjects, they wouldn't even grow to such sizes. Rio then brings up if Alan has seen that spider. Wait, spider? You mean that thing is a spider? Or should I say, the giant enemy spider? Anyways, Alan did face the spider and scared it away since he used a flamethrower, but it's all out of fuel. At least we know we could kill it with fire though. Finally, Alan tells us that researcher supervisor Powers was the one who sent the rescue signal. The thing is that the rescue team is arriving at the receiving pod, which is on the other side of the hotel. Ergo, we gotta deal with the spider somehow. So we get another shutter key from Alan as he continues to play dead while we try to find a weapon for the spider. Back out to the hallway as we open the second to last shutter in this section, there are now two more rooms to explore, the equipment room and the infirmary. First, the equipment room. There's an item or two to grab here, but the most important one is this magnesium chip that is available after we do a puzzle with a lift. This magnesium chip acts like a lighter, or more like a matchstick, where we can produce fire. But that's only one half of what we need. The second half lies inside the infirmary. Rio begins to ask us on what we associate with an infirmary. We can say things like a scalpel, operating table, or if we say nurse, we can get this interaction.
Oh, so you like nurses? Well, okay. Come on, more guesses.
Rio then concludes that surely there should be some chemicals here and tries to recall on a specific weapon that we can use to kill the spider. Same as before, we can say things like a handgun or a missile, but since our options are limited in the infirmary, the correct answer is a Molotov cocktail. Alcohol, that's what we need, but they're locked behind in cases. As always, we search for a key which is found in a drawer around the desk area, and that's it. Actually, let's turn on the computer. I've got a feeling we can get something there.
So you turned on the terminal. It's frozen. We can't get data from this. What is this? This word. Sexy pose, it says.
Alright guys, this may be one of the most important commands in this game, but before I say this command, I want your hands above the table, perverts. I don't want to see any funny business, okay? Sexy pose.
What, like this?
Well, that was anticlimactic. Let's get the alcohol. Now that we've got all the materials to make a Molotov, it's time to return back to the shutter and kill the spider. Our plan here is to time our throw when the spider opens its mouth. The problem is that we only have one Molotov, so if we miss, we're dead. Opening the shutter, the spider is just chilling in the hallway. Rio then pops some shots to attract his attention, and now it's down to us to tell Rio when to throw. When the spider's at the center, you can throw it. You can wait a few cycles so you don't have to rush it, but don't wait too long. If successful, a small cutscene plays out, killing the spider, and after that, somebody approaches to Rio.
Well done. Kudos to you.
This is Joe Powers, the researcher supervisor that sent out the rescue signal. If you remembered, Joe thanks us for killing the spider, but Rio ain't having none of that as she replied back that she doesn't like his condescending tone. Amused, Joe brings up that what's happening here isn't a total surprise and that all of this was top secret. Apparently, Alan discovered a UFO approaching close last year. Joe opposed the opening of the hotel because of this, but to no avail, hence why he made preparations for a rescue team. He then orders Rio to go to the receiving pod while he looks for Alan, which we tell him his whereabouts, and then leaves. Another cutscene plays out where two shutters, in front and behind, closes. Looks like it's time to find another shutter key. There's only one place to explore, and it's the restrooms. As we stand at the entrance of the restroom, Rio thinks it's a great idea to tell a spooky story where if we die in space, our soul will wander in space forever. She continues on saying that there have been some rumors about this restroom, and that at night you can hear the sounds of a music box playing. Apparently, an accident had happened involving 3 people when the space station outer walls were built. 2 survived, resulting in 1 casualty. The one who died was said to have worn a pendant with a family photo and a music box. Not really the spookiest of stories, but suddenly from a distance we hear a music box play, scaring Rio in the process. We calm Rio down, which kind of works but still a bit anxious. Because of this, Rio will walk more cautiously throughout this area. There are some items in these stalls, as well as some enemies if you pick the wrong one. To proceed, we have to shoot one of the mirrors in the women's restroom to get a code, then we go to the closet to enter it. The closet unlocks, and then we hear the music box play again. We look inside, which reveals a pendant and a note. Rio reads the note, and it turns out that one of her co-workers, Meg, had pranked her since she expected Rio to investigate the rumors. Well, it got Rio good. I guess we could laugh it all off in the end. What's that you say? Meg died at the ceremony. Oh, and the note says to return the pendant to her? Ugh. I know the game's trying to be on the sad side here. In my honest opinion, from what I understand, this segment was only here because it shows how Rio can get scared and isn't as strong as she looks, despite the situation. It's character development, I guess, but it feels like Meg was shoehorned into this just to show that. Which means, fuck Meg, who gives a shit? We didn't even know her up until now, and we just got a shutter key, let's go! Opening shutter 5, we got another guest room to explore, as well as searching for another shutter key. After that, we get an interference call of Naomi again, confirming that she's safe, and then we open shutter 6. Also, at this point, enemies are getting stronger. For example, shooting the 3-eyed monster's red eye won't kill them instantly now, upping the difficulty. The receiving pod is just up ahead here, but we hear a noise coming from the moon suite, which Rio checks out. Entering the moon suite, Rio tells us that if we see anything we should let her know, while she ventures forward. Eventually, we see that someone is ready to bust Rio's head in around the corner. Of course, we alert Rio, as well as holding our fire, and then things settle down. We finally meet Prime Minister Takayama face to face, and his wife, secretary and bodyguard, I assume. Takayama apologizes first and foremost because he says that he has dealt with an alien that had a humanoid appearance, hence why the lookout. Rio informs them that a rescue team is coming to the receiving pod. The secretary, a bit concerned, replies back saying the receiving pod is locked, but we can unlock it from the monitor room. Things are looking hopeful as everyone makes their way to the receiving pod. Finally done with this area, we enter the elevator hall and deal with some enemies, just before we go to the receiving pod. As we arrive at the entrance of the receiving pod, we see Takayama in the lot waiting. Also, this is a great example here showing the terrible dubbing where we hear Takayama's voice, yet we see Ryo's mouth move.
My God, what was the holdup? You had us worried.
Anyways, we open the main gate and everyone walks inside the receiving pod. It's empty and it doesn't look like the rescue team is here. A bit of doubt fills the air. Let's hear what the bodyguard thinks of this.
This isn't a good place to be. If we were attacked by aliens in the open...
Well, that was the quickest jinx I've seen. So a bunch of three-eyed monsters ambushes us, blocking both exits. Surrounded with our backs to the wall, the situation seems dire. Miraculously, from the ceiling the rescue team arrives, killing all of the monsters, but not before accidentally killing the bodyguard, since the ceiling panel they broke through killed one of the three-eyed monster, whose blood, which seemed to be acidic, splattered onto him. Afterwards, the rescue team leader, Captain Yatsumeda, introduced himself. He decided to make the receiving pod as their base of operations, and informs everyone to stay here while they look for more survivors. We still have to find Naomi and the reporter, so there's no point waiting around here. This marks the end of the first half of the game. Ryo gets a new set of clothes which she borrowed from the rescue team, as well as an upgrade from the handgun to an assault rifle. Ryo also asks us similarly to the first time we met her if we're willing to cooperate, which we say yes again. You can say no here, and back then as well, you just gotta say it a few times though. If done so, Ryo will shoot the camera and that's game over. Which is pretty funny and a bit brutal if you did this the first instance, as there was no save file to begin with, so you had to redo the whole opening sequence again. Starting off the second half of the game, Ryo tries to slip away from the receiving pod. Captain Yatsumeda catches her and demands Ryo to stay here, even pulling out a gun at her. Fortunately, he gets distracted when he hears a radio call from the rescue team, saying that there's an invisible alien that's blocking bullets in the vicinity. The call gets cut short while Ryo took that opportunity to escape. Onto a new area, Ryo explains that the plan now is to find Naomi and the reporter ASAP, and that our top priority now is to check every room possible. We've got a few places to explore, but let me break down what we have to do here. The main goal here is to enter the warehouse. Initially it's not locked, so we could just go right in there. The problem is that it's too dark to see in, preventing us to proceed. We can go into the control staff quarters where we fight some monsters as per usual and unlock some rooms by doing some puzzles. The most important room here is Jonathan's room, since he has a computer where we can enable night vision for the cameras. We can also grab Jonathan's employee ID, which will be useful for later, and to get an item downstairs. Leaving the control staff quarters, we hear some gunshots in the warehouse. Ryo tries to enter inside, but the hotel shakes violently, locking the door. Luckily, Ryo has a spare warehouse key in her room, which is in the service staff quarters. Entering the service staff quarters, we see that the whole place is wrecked, worrying Ryo. She tries to beeline to her room, but gets stopped by a new enemy. This plant monster is fairly simple to deal with, if done correctly. All we have to do is to shoot the branches first and then any of its eyes. Very easy, especially since we could stack commands. After the battle, Ryo makes her way to her room, witnessing the destruction inside.
This can't be. Oh. All my clothes. My pictures. Where are all my pictures? This is awful. I give up.
Oh no. You want me to say something here? I can't even keep in touch with my friends, let alone the capabilities to console someone. I've got to say something, don't I? Ryo, even though all your stuff is destroyed and most likely irreparable, the most important thing that matters is that you're still alive. Except that one time you died from the spider. Yeah, your photos are ruined and all, but you can still cherish those memories. Also, don't you put your photos on a backup or something? Anyways, you still gotta find the reporter, and we still gotta find Naomi. Honestly, you shouldn't be giving up here in all places, especially since we've gone this far. We've got this, you and me, till the end, right Ryo? Ah shit, I didn't hold down circle. You can say any words of encouragement here to snap Ryo out of it, and of course we grab the warehouse key that we've been looking for. Back to the warehouse, we can now unlock the door, and once we're inside, the night vision enables. Ryo also tries to test us here by either raising her left or right hand to confirm that we can actually see. Throughout this warehouse, we'll be fighting waves of enemies one after another as we traverse through. A total of 6 battles involving an assortment of slug and hand-like enemies awaits us. Nothing too hard to deal with. And don't forget, we can heal in between if you've been collecting those. At the end of the warehouse, there's a control panel we can turn on, powering the facility. Ryo turns around to exit, but she sees a bunch of rescue team personnel dead. One of them, still alive, manages to speak to Rio. He says that something approached them and twisted them one by one without even laying a finger. Rio questions on who they fought, but he passes away. The exit then opens, which reveals manager Tanaka accompanied with the rescue team. Tanaka here has the gall to say it's gonna cost a fortune to fix up this place. Even the rescue team is like, did this guy just deadass talk about the room first? Also, he tries to berate Rio again, but things begin to go off track when it shows up. One of the rescue team opens fire at it, which led to his twisted demise. It seems like this was the monster who killed the previous squad. We can't do anything about this, so we tell Rio to run away, which she does, running past the monster, surprisingly. Rio escapes successfully and comes to the conclusion that we cannot defeat such being, so the next time we encounter it, it's best to run away. Continuing on forward, we encounter a new enemy. This frog-like enemy is easy to deal with, but there are a few problems you might run into. To kill this enemy, you have to hit either its hind leg, front leg, or tail to flip it on its back. After that, you can shoot its right stomach and left stomach, exposing its red stomach, which will kill it when shot at. The problem here is that his body parts are quite a mouthful to say. This applies to every battle, but for me, when I say left, right, or red stomach, the recognition system doesn't seem to pick it up consistently. Actually, the real problem is that the recognition system is just bad overall, especially when we're in the midst of battle. You know, I get it, the game was released in 2003, the technology wasn't there yet. But every time I try to stack commands or deal the final blow on an enemy, the game just tells me to fuck off and all I see is Rio doing something completely different, or nothing at all. Thankfully, there's only one of them here, so killing it isn't too difficult. Once defeated, the frog will spit out a grenade launcher shell, which we use to blow up some debris that's blocking our way. We climb up to a new area, and let me tell you, this area is a pain to go through. There are 3 pipes in front of Rio, a red, blue, and green pipe. We have to guide Rio along these pipes, and it's not going to be easy since certain segments can either fall down or blow steam at Rio, forcing us to jump over to another pipe by saying its color. There are also gaps in between, but we can tell Rio to stop walking and then jump over. Again, this time around, the recognition system doesn't pick up when I say blue. You know, blue, the color blue, blueberry, bluegill, bluebird, blue bottles, blue. This probably applies to red and green too, but for me it was blue. My workaround for this was to say jump right or jump left, which actually works, but do mind that from Rio's perspective, jumping right means her left and vice versa. Also, there will be times where we have to jump from red to green or green to red, so if the game doesn't pick up you saying green or red, the workaround doesn't work here. If there is a way to jump that long without saying the color of the pipe, let me know in the comments. After numerous attempts, falling and jumping, we managed to get to the end and proceed to the next area. There are 2 places to go to. The elevator hall will lead us to a locked door, which means we have to explore the waiting room first. Upon arriving, Rio finally meets the reporter, but unfortunately both her and her cameraman are dead. Who would have guessed? Since they're dead, we gotta find some info ourselves, so Rio begins to investigate a pile of disc cases scattered across the floor. She thinks we're on the right track here and tells us to look for a case that was recorded in August. We find it, and then Rio inserts it in a disc player that's conveniently there. Also, this is where Rio explains why she's even on this hotel in the first place. The disc plays back an interview with the reporter and manager Tanaka. The interview isn't what we should be paying attention to, as Rio redirects our attention to the round stone in the background. She says that the round stone shouldn't be there in the first place, whatever that means. And because of this, Rio applied for a waitress job here in this hotel to investigate it. Now that the reporter is dead, Rio can't ask any questions on where this round stone is. So who else would know the location of this? Using the process of elimination, the person who would know is Gino, the security guard, since he's most likely would know what kind of exhibits he should be watching over. The cutscene ends with the new goal in sight, to find Gino and ask him about the round stone. But first, let's not forget about the locked door in the elevator hall. The key is in a locked cabinet right next to the door we came in from. The cabinets require us to name the control staff manager of the hotel, which is Jonathan Turner. He was the one who had access to the night vision, and we took his ID card as well. We take the key and be on our merry way, but before that I would recommend getting the keyword ticket here too. This ticket gives Rio the ability to jump, which will be useful in a later fight. We exit out and unlock the door in the elevator hall. Entering inside, we walk into a familiar place, where it all began, the restaurant hall. The main objective of this room is to blow up some debris in the center of the room, because Rio thinks she heard something around there. We need 4 grenade launcher shells, and we already have 3. 1 from the frog enemy, and 2 when we completed the pipe section. To get the last one, you have to go through either one of the 4 sections in this room. Each section, you have to deal with 2 to 3 enemies, where there will always be 1 frog enemy to reward you with another grenade launcher shell. You can take on all 4 sections to stock up more, which will be useful later on, but it's optional. Amongst all that debris, we see a survivor. I assume he's the chef of the restaurant because of his attire, but I could be wrong. Rio informs him that there's a rescue team in the receiving pod, and before we leave, he gives us an elevator code used to activate the elevator in the elevator hall. Returning back to the elevator hall, we make our way to the elevator. But as soon as we open the elevator, we have to fight another new enemy. I don't even know where to begin describing this monster, but at least I can explain on how this guy fights. At the beginning of the battle, the monster will turn invisible and then reappears either near you or above you. If near you, it will flip around its eye and mouth and do a charge attack, so you gotta dodge or hit whatever is in front of you if you can. If it appears above you, it will do a drop down attack, creating a circular shockwave on impact. This is where the jump command is useful here, since you can say jump and eye in one command, dodging the shockwave and immediately hitting its eye, which will always be in front during this attack. A successful hit will force the monster to disappear, repeating the cycle. As soon as that battle ends, we can step inside the elevator and take a breather. This scene here in particular is worth paying attention to, since we get a bit of character development about Rio. We ride up the elevator and see the view of the Earth and the space station, as well as hearing the main title screen music in the background. Rio brings up the topic of sightseeing in space. She says that people finally viewed themselves objectively when they saw the Earth in space, and perhaps they felt a separation with reality as well. She then hits us with a deep question asking us if we feel alive, which we say yes. Rio follows up with another question saying what was the first word our mother taught us, and stay with me here since this leads up to Rio's childhood. Say anything here, and Rio then replies that her first word was wir, we in German. Rio's mother was the one who taught her that, and Rio holds dearly to that word. Another question from Rio as she asks us what our favorite word or phrase is. I went with the Danganronpa route and said hope, which Rio replies with,
Hope, huh? It was the last thing left in Pandora's box.
Anyways, Rio explains herself on why she's asking these questions. I'll let Rio and the scene play it out from here, but I gotta say, it gets a bit intimate.
You're probably thinking, why is she asking me this all of a sudden? Well, I just wanted to get to know you better. After all, we don't know anything about each other. Despite the fact that we're partners, right? Would you like to know more about me? You might not believe me, but I've never had a boyfriend before. I'm a girl without a heart. But I'm beginning to understand. It's better for people to be with someone rather than being alone. When we get back to Earth, maybe I'll get you to introduce me to someone.
Please remain seated until the safety bar has been lifted.
Well, then again, what about you? But I suppose there's no chance of that, huh?
I'm getting that kind of vibe, you know, the just kidding, unless kind of vibe. Anyways, the elevator arrives at its destination, and the moment Rio steps out, the hotel once again begins to shake violently. Rio jumps out to safety whilst the elevator closes and deactivates due to the tremor. Moving on forward, we can exit out this elevator hall to another corridor. There are 3 places to go to: the break room, the manager's office, and the exhibit hall. We'll go in that order, starting with the break room. This area has a lot of encounters, the first one being a buffed 3-eyed worm in the corridor. Going inside the break room, we won't be taking any breaks anytime soon since another yellow Beyblade monster appears. After dealing with that, we can go to the table at the center of the room and tell Rio to blow some coffee powder off the table, as doing so will reveal the manager's office keycard. We can now exit back to the corridor, but we bump into Gino on the other side. A concerned Gino immediately starts to bombard Rio with questions. Let's not forget that we need to ask Gino about the round stone, so we tell Rio to threaten him, which did the trick. Actually, maybe Rio got a bit too into it, as she's threatening Gino at gunpoint, and even forcing Gino to play the interview disc. As the interview plays out, Rio asks Gino where the stone is located. Gino says that the stone is in the exhibit hall, but we won't have access there since the manager's got the only key to it. Gino then comes to the conclusion that Rio's a thief. He's wrong, but the funny thing is that Rio plays along with it, and she even knocked him out in the end. I was like, damn Rio, was that necessary? But I guess it's better to do that than explain the situation to him. The cutscene ends and Rio is out in the corridor. Now I suggest saving here because the encounters coming up are going to be painful. The next place that we have to go to is the manager's office. It's quite the distance from the break room, and along the way you have to deal with 2 hand enemies and 1 slug enemy. And then after that, you gotta fight not 1, not 2, but 3 frog enemies when one of them is buffed and they can walk on the damn ceiling. I'm not going to lie, this took a few attempts, but these little bastards are hard to deal with. They're jumping, they're grabbing onto you, the recognition system is ass, every death you gotta walk back here from the save point. I suffered a bit, but I got myself to blame here since for some reason I kept saying heal instead of recover. You know, the first thing we learned, flee and recover, and I didn't use it at all throughout this fight. Saying heal does work, but I think the recognition system thinks you're saying tail or something else, so it's a bit unreliable. After that ordeal is done and dusted, there's another battle to deal with, a boss battle in fact, so I suggest to save one more time here. When we're ready, we enter the manager's office. Inside, everything's in shambles and covered in scratches. The first thing Ryo notices is Tanaka's clothes on the floor, and then we hear some noise coming from the door at the back. Ryo closes in towards the door, where an alien slowly emerges out. Ryo, looking quite shocked, comments that she warned him about this, and I'll let you guys put 2 to 2 together here on who this alien could be. The alien approaches to Ryo to the wall and begins to siphon her vitality. We tell Ryo to shoot at it, but she's a bit hesitant at first, so we have to tell her a second time to shoot it, fending off the alien. The battle begins, and here's what we have to do. Initially, the alien will have red rings glowing on each body part that we have to shoot. Hitting these red rings will deal a bit of damage to it. When all red rings are hit, the alien will start throwing a blue ball that we have to dodge, but if we dodge successfully, specific parts of the alien's body will show the red ring. We have to be quick shooting at these parts though, as they don't stay up too long. The alien can also lunge at you, which will also randomly reveal some red rings to shoot at. If you still have grenade launcher shells, this is the place to use it all, because when it hits the alien, they'll be on the ground with all red rings exposed. This battle overall isn't as bad as the last one. Mind you, I was still saying heal majority of the time. All in all, if you've been stockpiling heals or grenade launcher shells, this fight is no problem. Once defeated, the alien passes away, leaving a note behind. Ryo picks it up and realizes that the note is written in the manager's handwriting. And yes, if you haven't guessed already, the alien was manager Tanaka, so nothing of value was lost. How did he turn into an alien, you may ask? We'll touch upon that later. Anyways, Ryo reads the note and basically it's a head count on who's in the receiving pod. Only 8 out of the 50 guests are present in the receiving pod. Also, the note lists some important names who are missing, which includes the reporter and the researcher Joe Powers. Judging from the note, Ryo concludes that they're dead and then the cutscene ends here. Continuing onwards, we have to open a safe in the room at the back. Inside the safe, there's the exhibit hall key and a disc that belongs to Alan Honda. Ryo immediately rushes to the projector in the other room and plays the disc. The disc shows a presentation that focuses on the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, the same Philosopher's Stone you see in movies and other media. This Philosopher's Stone is known for its intense regenerative powers. The presentation then explains on how they, the research team, have successfully replicated the Philosopher's Stone. It sounds too good to be true, and you're right, as this Philosopher's Stone curses the user instead of healing them. That explains the humanoid-like aliens in the hotel. The presentation ends here, and we're left off with the fact that the Philosopher's Stone is a weapon of mass destruction. And that begs the question, who the hell is using it? Ryo has a good idea on who might be involved. A man named Joseph Kraft. I believe this is the first time we heard the name Joseph Kraft. Nevertheless, from this presentation, we also know that Alan Honda is working with Kraft since he straight up lied about the research they were working on. The next thing we gotta do is to check out the Philosopher's Stone. As we arrive to the entrance of the exhibit hall, there are 2 panels to activate. Ryo will take one side while we take the other. We have to tell Ryo to swipe the key and then activating the panel on our side at the same time with Ryo, which may or may not take a few tries. Entering inside, we get greeted to a selection of exhibits in cases, 10 in fact. The case we're looking for is case 3, but not before going into 2 encounters, where you could fight 2 slugs and the plant monster, 3 three-eyed monsters, or the yellow spinneroonie monster. After dealing 2 of the 3 possible encounters, we get to case 3. The Philosopher's Stone is nowhere to be seen. Ryo says that the next course of action is to go back to the receiving pod and confront Honda. However, we can't leave just yet because Ryo sees something at the top of the case, a bomb, and it's set to go off. Ryo tells us to investigate the bomb, and when we do, it tells us that the only way to turn it off is to enter 3 numerical passcodes. The first passcode requires us to enter the sum of the last digits of today's date. Well, today's the 24th of December, 2029. That means it's 4 plus 2 plus 9, which is 15. That's 1 down, but we've got 2 more to go. The second passcode wants us to enter the number of guests in the hotel. We know how many, but Ryo on the other hand tells us it's 13, which is completely wrong. But she does correct herself a few seconds later, saying it's 50. Not the best situation to reiterate, but you can always look back on Tanaka's note to see how many. The final passcode needs the sum of the last digits of Takayama's birth date. Ryo doesn't know this one at all, panicking a bit, but we can use the camera footage that she has from the opening party. Examining the footage reveals that the Prime Minister is celebrating his 60th birthday today. That means the answer is 15, the same as the first. After getting all the passcodes right, the bomb is successfully defused. I'll let the scene play out here again for another interaction with Ryo.
Phew. This whole time, I've been trying to remember your face, but I can't. Not anymore. I want you to know, I really am grateful. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead. Here we are, complete strangers, entrusting one another with our lives, and everyone on Earth oblivious to what's going on. And you know what's funny? I don't even know your name. If we get back to Earth safely, you think we could actually meet somewhere? Like, normal friends? Thanks for being considerate. Anyway, you'll have Naomi back. I'm sure Naomi is safe somewhere. We'll find her. We've got to.
Our conversation ends and suddenly two soldiers from the rescue team shows up, asking Ryo what she's doing and ordering her to put the bomb back. That doesn't sound like what a rescue team would say, and Ryo picks up on that. We then get interrupted by another rescue team soldier floating towards us. Following behind is the blue alien from the warehouse. Everyone evacuates, Ryo getting a head start, and then we're back in the hallways getting chased down by the two soldiers. Ryo wants to cut these guys off, and fortunately she comes across a shutter that we can close. We close it, but one of the soldiers shoots a grenade launcher shell at Ryo, hitting the shutter and preventing it from closing. Ryo takes cover to a nearby container and asks us what's stopping the shutter. We look around to see a mechanical arm with a red-yellow lever holding the shutter up. What we have to do is to tell Ryo to shoot wherever the top lever is, while the two soldiers open fire at us. If you're quick enough, you can close the shutter before the soldiers either hit you or hit the lever the other way, slowing our progress. You can shoot the soldiers if you want to, but it's faster this way, and also do mind your health. Once we close the shutter, we can make our way back to the receiving pod, but we bump into Gino again, and he's not happy this time around. Now's not the time, Gino, we're getting chased by, oh my god, it phased through the shutter. Gino starts to open fire at the blue alien. Looks like he didn't see what happened in the warehouse. Ryo tries to warn him, but it's no good, so we just tell Ryo to run away. Adios, Gino, it was good knowing you. Finally, we arrive back to the receiving pod, only to witness Alan Honda and the rescue team, in air quotes, revealing their motives of blowing up the space station and obtaining the Philosopher's Stone. Also, epilepsy warning for this cutscene coming up, so look away if you must, and I'll tell you when it's okay to look back. Yatsumeda then orders his men to shoot the remaining survivors. Ryo tries to step in, but it's already too late. After the damage was done, Ryo is next on the chopping block, however the Prime Minister's wife, barely alive, starts cursing them. Yatsumeda deals the final blow, only for her to turn into an alien similar to the blue alien, killing and twisting everyone in the room except Ryo. You can look back now as a pile of dead bodies lay before us, dwindling the remaining survivors. Our current goal was to find more information about the Philosopher's Stone from Alan. Well, he's dead now, but fortunately he carries a laptop around, so Ryo investigates it, and this leads up to her revealing her past and involvement in all this. It turns out Ryo is a descendant of Paracelsus, the scientist who initially researched the Philosopher's Stone. The stone is an heirloom that has been passed down through generations and eventually to Ryo's family. Influencing her life at an early age, her father and a geologist assistant named Joseph Kraft spent years researching the stone until they found out the secret nature of it. You see, the stone's composition is uniform throughout. Solids like stone or metals don't have a uniform composition. Why? Because of gravity, pressure. With that knowledge, Joseph wanted to steal the Philosopher's Stone, and so he shot Ryo and her family. She survived, but her father and mother didn't make it. Rio fled to Japan to safety and had confirmation that the stone was protected by her father until she saw the stone suddenly on the news. It seems to Rio that Joseph replicated the stone in order to obtain the real Philosopher's Stone. She then questions on why Joseph would go to such lengths like turning people into aliens and blowing up the space station. Was this all necessary for the Philosopher's Stone, and what is Joseph planning to do with the real stone? The main priority now is to find and destroy the replica stone, and of course find us, the operator. Rio mentions that we're still being chased by the blue alien, and with everything that's been going on, she assumes that Naomi may be that alien. Rio then retracts her assumption and remembers that there's still one more place Naomi could be, the testing ward, and also where the monitor room is located. Taking one more elevator ride, we enter the final area of the game. In the testing ward, there's zero gravity, so Rio has to use an air shooter to move around. To proceed, we have to go through some hatches and eventually we reach the laboratory. In the laboratory, we can find a shoe floating above, or more specifically, Naomi's heel. From this position, we can see another passage leading upwards. Is Naomi inside there, perhaps? However, the gap is too small, so we gotta find a way to lower the device in front of us. There's an input panel that we can use to lower it, but we gotta do a teamwork activity beforehand. Basically, Rio will say a string of numbers and symbols and we have to input them within a time limit. We have to say 6 codes in total, and in one instance, Rio will accidentally say one symbol too many, so you gotta be on your toes when inputting. After we input all 6 codes, the device at the center of the laboratory will lower down, giving Rio access above. We expect that there's a chance Naomi might be above here, but unexpectedly, we find a brain inside a capsule that can communicate with us. The brain sense that someone's nearby, right on the money. They then tell Rio that the scientists had experimented the stones numerous of times over the years on them, hence why they're in this state, and additionally, because of this, they request us to turn off the machine they're in. We get to a point where Rio introduces herself as a waitress, and then the brain asking us if we know about the stone. Rio says yes, and the brain replies that the stone was meant to bring happiness to the world, but due to the corruption and greed within that world, it led to the making of multiple stones. They plead once again to turn off the machine, which Rio complies to. Before we pull the plug, the brain has one last request for us. They inform us that in Japan there's a woman named Rio Honheim, that's Rio's full name by the way, and they want us to find her and tell her that her mother is still alive. Then the pieces starts to fall together. This person that we've been talking to all this time isn't some random test subject guy, it's Rio's father. Rio, devastated, manages to reply that she will carry on his wish. She doesn't reveal that she's Rio, she's too overwhelmed, and thus we end his suffering. A better death than Meg, I can tell you that. Rio grieves for a moment until the space station suddenly shakes again, and we hear from the intercom that the space station is heading towards Earth in around 32 minutes. That means somebody changed its direction. Anyways, we don't have much time and we have to find Naomi ASAP. Returning back to the testing ward, we see the blue alien, and it starts talking to Rio asking her if she has seen him. Rio gets a bit too close to the alien, inadvertently getting heard. Then her earpiece falls off and we step in saying, Naomi? It's one surprise after another. That's right, Naomi was the blue alien all along. And it seems like she doesn't have long to live as she begins to fade away. Naomi apologized for all the trouble she's caused. Honestly, it wasn't her fault to begin with. Hearing our voice one last time was more than enough for her as she passes away. After that event, Rio falls into self-pity, doubting herself, saying that she couldn't save anyone and that she's cursed. She even asks us directly if she was the one who caused everything to happen. We say no, and Rio swears that she'll save us. Then suddenly, from behind, Joe Powers shows up, aiming a shotgun at her. It turns out Joe here was the one that turned people into aliens with the stone. Rio questions why, and the reason why was because he wants to know the effects it had on humans, since animal test subjects wasn't enough. So basically this guy is batshit crazy. He then mocks Rio and blames her for Naomi's death. He also mentions us at one point, saying that we've been poisoned by some caterpillar, and that he was the one who put us in the monitor room in the first place. Moving on, Rio asks if he was the one that changed the direction of the space station. He attests to it, and then following up by saying that he's still puzzled by the fact that Rio's still alive. He could have sworn he killed her that one time, but this time he won't fail twice, and so he proceeds to shoot Rio, sending her to her demise. Here's the next surprise. You see, Joe Powers explains that if you translate his name from English to German, you would get Joseph Kraft. Not really the exact translation, but close enough. And to be honest, this was pretty obvious. I mean, who else would have been the antagonist at this point? Everyone is dead. Joseph bids farewell, and as soon as he turns around, he gets shot from behind. The the full spray down from Rio. How is Rio alive, you may ask? Well, Rio reveals that Joseph did kill Rio in the past. The thing is that her father pushed the Philosopher's Stone into her wound, completely reviving her. Because of this, Rio can temporarily save us, prolonging the poison's effect until we get to a hospital back on Earth. We're coming to the final stretch, and I suggest you save here one last time. Once you've done so, we tell Rio to go forward through hatch 6. Through hatch 6, Rio enters the zero-gravity warehouse. Investigating further, it turns out the room is filled with the fake Philosopher's Stone. Hundreds, maybe even thousands in total. Rio, enraged, opens fire in an attempt to destroy the fake stones. However, as things settle down, there's just way too many to deal with. Rio ponders on what we can do about this, and eventually she suggests that we should self-destruct the space station, assuming that there even is a self-destruct option. But at least it's killing two birds with one stone, as we can prevent the space station hitting Earth and destroy the remaining fake stones. Rio then makes her way to the monitor room, but as soon as she tries to open the room, Joseph shows up, looking like $1,000,000. He too used the Philosopher's Stone to revitalize himself, the fake stone, mind you. Joseph then puts a bit of doubt in our minds, saying that we're a lost cause and Rio can't save us. Rio assures us that she'll save us, and then shoots a grenade launcher shell at Joseph. He takes the hit and he's still alive, and pissed. So then he absorbs multiple fake stones around him and transforms into this monstrosity. Rio's weapon, now redundant, gets an idea and heads to the shuttle pod. She heads inside where it contains 2 escape pods, and the plan here is to use the escape pod thrusters at Joseph. Speak of the devil, Joseph arrives to the shuttle pod and then grows massively to initiate the final battle of the game. We take control both escape pods, as we use the directional pad for the left escape pod and using our voice for the right escape pod, cause Rio's on the right side. For the right escape pod, imagine a 3x3 grid, and to control it we can say up, down, left and right, as well as diagonally by saying upper left, upper right, lower right. Alternatively, you can say down left or up right, for example, if your diagonal commands aren't responding. The boss here is invincible at the start of the battle. First they'll throw some flying projectiles at you that you must hit with the thruster. Whether it's the left side, right side or both sides, you must take out these projectiles, otherwise you'll lose some health. Eventually, the boss will throw out a red barrier and will be vulnerable during that time. Obviously we can't hit him through the barrier, so we gotta hit both ends of the barrier and then hit him. If you're quick enough to direct the right thruster from the end of the barrier to the boss, combined with the left thruster, you can deal an insane amount of damage and probably 2-cycle the boss here. If you didn't deal enough damage, that's fine. Just rinse and repeat, keep an eye on your health, and sooner or later the boss will be defeated. As the final battle concludes, we're back to the operator's point of view, witnessing the events in the monitor room. We hear the entrance open, Rio being on the other side as we finally meet face to face. Our vision becomes a bit hazy, most likely due to the effects of the poison, but gets mitigated as soon as Rio comes close to us. She then takes over the computer and begins to initiate the self-destruct sequence. As we were about to leave, the computer alerts us saying that the lock in the shuttle pod escape hatch cannot be disengaged, and to unlock it, we have to input a password from this riddle. The riddle goes like this: my frigid heart, the only thing that melts it is just your blank, the blank being 4 letters long. I've got 2 problems with this. First one being, who the hell sets up a riddle to open an escape hatch? A minor problem. The main problem is that, even though you might think the answer is obvious, if your brain doesn't click it, there are no hints on telling you the answer. It could be a swear word for all I know. Fuck, shit, dick, cunt, cussor. It could be any 4-letter word. If there is some kind of hint, please let me know. I don't think there is, and this could just fly past your head, ending up with you searching the answer. The actual answer is love. It's kind of obvious at this point, but if you didn't get that, that's the problem. Anyways, we got to hightail out of here because the space station's blowing up right now. We get to the shuttle pod, explosions everywhere. We nearly die, but Rio's there to save us as we quickly get inside the escape pod. Rio prepares us for takeoff as we reminisce the death of our loved ones, and once all systems are ready, we successfully escape the space station, and I'll let the scene play out one last time.
Listen,
Operator. Can I say one last thing? Thank you.
Hold on, the fake Philosopher's Stones, they aren't destroyed, they're orbiting in space. What if one landed on Earth? Oh, that's the end of the game apparently. Finally, we complete the game, and I hope you enjoyed the last scene there. When you do complete the game, you get two benefits. First one is that you can load your complete data file, and Rio will have two different outfits from the first playthrough. The second one is that you can check out all the bonuses you've unlocked from getting chips throughout the playthrough. They're all mini-games and they're all new except the category game, which can be acquired from a word ticket. The category game, for example, is a match between you and Rio, where Rio picks a category like United States Presidents, and both of you will have to say different presidents one after another without repeating. I was planning to do a funny bit with the category game, but it didn't sound genuine, so I dropped that bit. And also, I somehow got 15 chips. You need 16 to unlock all bonuses, but you can load a complete data file and get another chip there. So, what are my thoughts on Lifeline? Well, Lifeline I would say is quite a unique experience. I would recommend this game to anyone, honestly, just so they can experience the voice recognition system, because there really isn't a game that uses voice recognition like what Lifeline has done. Most likely you're going to be frustrated, but you know, the game came out in 2003 and the technology wasn't there yet to be flawless. Aside from that, I do have a few problems with this game as well. For example, we're more favored to Rio than Naomi because we're with Rio the whole game, and the fact that Naomi dies puts the nail in the coffin that we most likely end up with Rio. That's fine, I guess, but it feels like they did Naomi's character dirty if you get what I mean. Also, there's the terrible dubbing and the last part. I know that the game focuses on Rio, but maybe a few fleshed out characters could have been better. Actually, do you remember the chef from the restaurant? He died off screen and his only purpose was to give Rio the elevator key, that's it. Next, let's talk about the game's reception. The game overall had mixed reviews, some high, some low. And I totally agree on that, but I think my favorite review is this GameSpy review by Benjamin Turner. If you're out there, Benjamin, I hope you're doing well because this article was an amusing read. So, the GameSpy review rates this game a 1 out of 5, and its pros are decent scenario, graphics, and sound. Its cons are broken voice recognition ruins game and is not a good idea to begin with. The review starts using examples like Zork and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, text-based adventures which when compared are similar. What gets me is this line under the heading, "When words fail." And here's what it says. Sadly, this control system is less than ideal for directing a character who is both hard of hearing and retarded. Hey, not in my Christian Minecraft server, Benjamin. The review then ends off saying Lifeline is basically a text-adventure game with a malfunctioning keyboard, obviously criticizing the voice recognition system. It's true the voice recognition system is bad overall. In this review, they mentioned they use a PS2 USB headset, and initially I thought maybe the mic is the problem too. I used an Audio-Technica AT25 and now RE20 throughout my playthrough, and I had recognition problems. So I don't think the microphone is the biggest factor here, therefore it's the recognition system at fault. To conclude this 1 hour odd video, what I think really matters and what makes Lifeline is that this was an ambitious attempt to create an action-adventure survival horror game that uses our voice, something that was never done before, innovating for its time, and I would say a diamond in the rough. With today's technology, as I previously mentioned before like Alexa or Siri, voice recognition has been improved dramatically, and with this I believe that Lifeline is a stepping stone that could, or maybe will, create another voice action adventure with the potential to be a real gem. And that's it. If you made it this far, whether you skipped to here or watched the whole thing, props to you. I'm truly grateful regardless. As said before, this is my first video with this kind of editing. I've got plans for the next one and hopefully it'll be 100% shorter, but I'm glad that this video is finally done. What else to say? I've got a Twitter, @JevTheNinja, no spaces. Gonna post more on that when this video comes out. I've also got a Let's Play channel, which some of you may have come from. You can check that out. I'll put all the socials in the description below. Also, obligatory like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. Sorry, but I had to say that. Lastly, whether you play this game or not, I hope that this video informs you the existence of Lifeline and what it has to offer. If you can, go find a copy of it. It's pretty rough to obtain one outside the US due to cost and region lock. Alternatively, you can emulate it as a last resort, because you need to try it at least once. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time and catch you guys later. Take care.